Our next author, the second speaker for today, is um, famous for three things: teaching a high school class that has changed the lives of thousands of kids, inspiring Silicon Valley legends like Steve Jobs, and raising three daughters who have each become famously successful. Esther Wachowski, a teacher and a mentor to James Franco and Lisa Vernon Jobs, mother of YouTube CEO Susan Wachowski, Fulbright scholar Janet Wachowski, and 23andMe founder Anne Wachowski. She is widely heralded as the most successful parent and educator in the United States. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Esther Wachowski. Over to you, Esther.
Thank you. I need to share my screen. Let's see if I can do it. So thank you so much for inviting me here. I'm really excited to be here and to talk to all of you. I only wish I could be in Canada, but since the pandemic is here, we have to compromise. And so this is a great compromise. And so my book is How to Raise Successful People, Simple Lessons for Radical Results. And I'm targeting parents, teachers, and managers. And my book is organized around this philosophy, TRIC. And that's why I have it up here, the first slide. It stands for trust, respect, independence, collaboration, and kindness. And so I synthesized this down to these letters with the help of my students about what it was that made such a big difference in their lives in my classroom. And the first one that they mentioned was trust. And that's one of the reasons why I'm using this acronym and why I organized my book around this acronym TRIC. So in the book, I focus on stories. It's primarily stories about kids and about TRIC. It's stories about my daughters, stories about my students, and stories about my life in general. TRIC is what it takes for kids to succeed. I only have a few minutes, 15 minutes to talk to you, so I thought I'd synthesize it. This is really what it takes. When you trust kids and you respect them, they trust themselves and they respect themselves and they grow up to be self-confident kids. And I tried it first on my own children. And these are my three daughters when we lived in Switzerland. This is Susan, Janet, and Anne. And they all look a little shocked actually by the picture. That was because they weren't planning on having a picture that day. Here they are today. Anne is to the left, Susan is the right, and Janet is in the middle. And these are their jobs today. Susan is the CEO of YouTube. And some people asked me, well, did you ever think your daughter was going to be, CEO of a major company? And the answer was no, definitely not. I never even envisioned it, and neither did she. But what I taught her and what I taught all my daughters was not to be afraid of taking a risk. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. This is Janet. She's a professor of pediatrics, a Fulbright scholar at the University of California, San Francisco. She's an epidemiologist, and she focuses on nutrition and gastroenterology and the importance of feeding your child correctly at the beginning. It makes such a huge difference. Her research shows that people that end up having a lot of weight problems are children that were fed incorrectly at the beginning, and they develop these fat cells that they find very difficult to get rid of. This is Anne, and Anne is the co-founder or founder of 23andMe. It is probably the most daring company in healthcare in the last 10 years. And she has the largest personal genetics company. And the goal is to help you find out about your own personal genetics and then take action. It's preventive. So then I tried this philosophy out on my students. And this is just one class. My classes were very big, 50 to 70 students with one teacher. And the reason I could do that is because of TRIC. I trusted them, had them work collaboratively in groups, and gave them the opportunity to try out their own ideas. So, what did I teach my kids and my students? Number one, I said it's okay to take a risk and not succeed. If you can do just this one thing, it'll make the biggest difference in your child's life or your student's life. Try everything. Don't be afraid of failure. Just do it again. And that was the way my class was set up. If you didn't do your story correctly, just revise. Continue to revise until you get it right. So the grade pressure was off. And I provided a safe space for kids to innovate. I did that at home as well as in class. So the main thing their main takeaway was believe in yourself. Believe that you can do it. If you just keep revising, you can do it. So I've had thousands of successful kids. There's a picture that was taken prior to the pandemic, just actually a few months prior to the pandemic. And I have students on all major publications: Wall Street Journal, New York Times, Economist, Washington Post, Time, Newsweek, many CEOs, actors, entrepreneurs, and athletes. And this is an example of what the kids do. They produce a newspaper that comes out every 2 to 3 weeks. I can tell you it continued in the pandemic. And the main reason I'm convinced that it continued in the pandemic was because the kids were in charge. They got to be in charge of the Zoom calls. And so they all showed up. Here's an example of something else. This is their spotlight talking about divorce. And here's another article that they wrote. This is in another one of the publications. And this is about drug addiction and the tragedy involved in drug addiction. So this is one of the magazines. As you can see, the topics are all related to the pandemic because they were produced in the pandemic. That's Verde, C Magazine, and Proof is a photography magazine. This is what the class looked like prior to the pandemic. The computer lab went back quite a ways, so there were about 60 kids in this computer lab. Then in the pandemic, I co-founded a company to promote TRIC in the classroom because I realized that it was really hard for teachers. And so this would give them an opportunity to put something in what I call 20% time. And 20% time means that 20% of the time, kids get to do something they care about, something that is not directed by the administration or the curriculum, but something that's directed by their interests. And tracked is screen time you can all feel good about. It's for parents and it's for teachers, but that's especially important right now for teachers. And it's free for actually 3 months, but it's peer-to-peer self-directed learning for your classroom. And if you go to teach.track.app and you have this access code TiEcon, you get it free forever in your classroom. So the idea, my goal as a teacher and as a parent, is to empower kids and to give them that opportunity for them to work independently and feel good about themselves. So Tract is the first by kids, for kids online platform. So the teenagers are 15 to 20, and they're creating learning for kids 8 to 14. So grades 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 are the ones that can enjoy using it. And then we're also looking for creators, that is, kids who want to be creators of learning paths, who may be interested in, teaching. There is nothing like teaching to be able to learn something better yourself. And so this is what I'm trying to do to help the world in this pandemic. And I realize it's been a real challenge for everybody. And that's part of the reason why I started this. And the CEO of Tract is my former student. And 15 of the first people in Tract are all my former students. And some of them are actually present students right now. So I realize that I don't have as much time as I would love to have, but I will be in the breakout in the room where we can socialize. And so what I would like to suggest is that you join me in that room, and after this presentation I'll be happy to be there and answer questions from parents and from teachers and help people get involved. And so I'm sorry I can't answer any more questions right now.
Thank you, Esther. You're inspiring and empowering the next generation. And they and we are truly lucky to have you here.